You were now, I want to get this right. You were the first ECB female registered agent or the first ECB female Asian registered cricket agent?
First female registered agent with ECB.
First female full stop.
Yes. And then I looked, there was no Asians. Not that that should matter, but then I threw in the Asian as well. Because then I had Asian organizations contacting me. So then there was that added on. Like I did I don't know if you've seen Nihal's interview on BBC Radio.
I've seen the link. When I tried to click on it, it was just a still picture. The link disappeared. I couldn't listen to it anymore, which
I'm
is a
not
shame.
important anymore now. That's
Because
it.
again, I could compare. What's a bigger deal, going on Coronation Street or being interviewed by Nihal? Nihal is a pretty big deal.
I think Nahal, I was very nervous, and he asked me the question that I'm sure everyone would have liked to ask me: have you watched Jerry Maguire? And the sheer look of horror, I was like, who the heck is he talking about? What? But then I did my research, of course, and yep. Then I messaged him and said, "Show me the money." I think he was impressed after that. Needless to say, he never interviewed me again.
Becoming an agent, getting into that side of cricket, again, there are not an awful lot of jobs in general in cricket, but
Yeah.
especially obviously there were no women serving
Yes.
as agents, and so you're already trying to become a trailblazer, trying to become a pioneer, but then as if you weren't challenging yourself enough, who do you pursue? You say you pursued Mohammad Amir to be your first client. Take me through the process. I mean, I don't want to be disrespectful, but was it a case of you were struggling to get clients and this was the only guy who was available who you were able to approach because again he was radioactive and nobody wanted to have anything to do with him after the match fixing saga, or is there some other story behind the story?
No, there wasn't. In all honesty, then I started. It was a breakthrough of getting to know cricketers and then trying to, like I spoke to Moeen Ali, Wahab Riaz, Shan Masood. My memory is actually really bad, but I did start talking to some international players. But Mohammad Amir to me was, and I think at the time of looking, and I announced I was the first female agent, and there was a lot around media at that time, which was just a genuine interest. I was contacted by one of his friends or someone from Pakistan to say, would you look to, as you're the first female agent, you know Mohammed Amir's background. At that time, I didn't know the intricacies of the match fixing, in all seriousness. Would you help him come back because he's looking to come back to international career? You're the first female cricket agent. So it was an introduction to start to get to know Amir. And then I said, again, as I mentioned, I spoke to my father, and it was, quite one of those uncomfortable discussions of what's, exactly what you said. He's coming back from match fixing. Fara, understand the whole point of what this means to someone who's coming new into the industry. It could be your poison chalice. It's someone who's a star, but then what happens when you're faced with everything that's going to be drawn into the media as and when he comes back to the international stage? Again, I always believe that I didn't want to come in as also having this accolade of first female cricket agent. Then maybe I need to do something different. Maybe it means putting myself where not many agents would as a newcomer. Let me see what what Mohammad Amir is about. So I think we spoke for a couple of months at first at length, and he has become, and his wife have become genuine good friends of mine, just through the sheer of understanding the challenges he faced when he returned to international cricket, but also understanding his background, what had happened in Pakistan, and being from parents from Pakistan and understanding that culture, you can somewhat sympathize and understand to what's gone on in that culture and the team environment. So it was, again, I'm very much driven on challenges, and I took it upon a challenge to represent Mohammad Amir. And at the time, Peter, there were so many other agents who wanted to represent him at the same time. Farah will represent him, and I faced all sorts of challenges from other agents for representing Mohammad Amir because they wanted to, but I just thought it was a great opportunity for who I believe is an exceptional human being. And I think he's a good father, good husband, and an absolute talented cricketer.
The whole sports agency industry, whether it's cricket or in the American marketplace with NFL, NBA, baseball, NHL, in some ways, breaking in can be very, very difficult because name recognition, brand recognition, it's almost for lack of a better word, it's a incestuous marketplace where there's only a couple people who really, really have the market cornered. And if you're not working for them, it's an extreme uphill battle to really carve out a place in the marketplace. So the fact that you were able to get Amir and that he did choose you to represent him while he was on the comeback trail, what impact did that have in terms of helping you build your portfolio and attract other clients?
Automatically, I like to use the term overnight, other Pakistani cricketers started reaching out for representation. People then got to know that this young lady was serious about coming into cricket. That it, for me, I believe it did open up many doors of representing Mohammad Amir, even to a point we had BBC contacting for an interview, BBC working with me to be able to go to Pakistan to interview him. So that at that time, we're just having the accolade of being the first female registered agent, also then came a huge responsibility and somewhat accountability to what now my client does is hugely going to be also be a reflection on how I manage him. So from opening doors and having the exciting and all the good feeling factor became a little bit of seriousness, if not more, that there was this accountability. And as I believe, as a female coming into cricket, not having many females or having zero female agents, it was always going to be a challenge. And if anything, this not only opened up opportunities, but just as much created as many challenges, if not more. In that case, do we trust her? She's represented someone from Pakistan. He's done this. You know, even some county boards were reluctant to speak to me about his coming back into international and then county cricket. So it was challenging, but I enjoyed it. Opportunities, definitely, but an interesting time for me to learn about cricket, learn about managing people. And that's the first time I actually had to manage someone one-on-one and understand that there was some vulnerability around his side of coming back, and that would be up to me to build. And also just put him in the light of where not everyone would accept him, but the majority would accept him for his talent. And perhaps die down the nose around the match fixing.
What measure of success do you feel you were able to achieve and accomplish in that regard in terms of reshaping his reputation?
I believe working with Amir on one-on-one in terms of him having confidence in himself and being able to show a wealth of confidence because I believed in his talent. I believed in him for when he told me what had happened through his story. And also then to bring him over to the Essex. Essex was a huge accomplishment for us both. Ronnie Rani, who actually is a mentor of mine, a huge respect for Ronnie, was someone who I worked closely with to bring Amir into the Essex setting. And there was challenges around convincing certain people around the board of Amir's talent and who he was as a person, but also then the level of education, of educating him. This is what the real world is about. This is where, you know, even your English lessons, even how you portray yourself. For me, I think the huge success there, Peter, was the management of bringing someone from somewhat of a tarnished past to the present, but then preparing him for the future. For myself, I think I took away huge success in the changing of Amir through his environment and through the interaction and people that I'd have him interact with.
There's an awful lot to go into being a sports agent, not just representing the player in terms of contract negotiations or media interactions, but trying to secure sponsorships and endorsement deals, and also perhaps in some ways managing an entourage in terms of if there's hangers on or there's bad influences, good influences, especially in the case of Amir and trying to come back. What people do you want him to surround himself with, or how does he go through that path? And there's other parts of being an agent as well. For you, what was the most enjoyable part of the day-to-day duties of being an agent, whether it's for me or any other player? And what part did you enjoy the least, that you were most eager to walk away from?
What I enjoyed the most was understanding and getting to know my clients. In this case, who they were away from the game, who they were as a father, brother, and then also a client, but seeing them in different roles. I think that was understanding, what makes them tick, what do they listen to, what can I control? And that was always a challenge, because some days you'd have good days where you'd bring them, hey, New Balance is giving you shoes, and it's like, well, I don't like those. And then I'm sure okay, so we've got you 3 pairs here of exactly the same. So those were the interesting parts of understanding what my client likes, who he is, who is this person, and how do I create that bond as a manager, but also someone they trust, they can pick up the phone to at any time. For me, the relationship management was my favorite, because we are different humans, and I just like to understand who I work with and who I choose to be friends with. Now, there's certain clients I've worked friends with and a manager. With certain, it was just managers. I'm just your manager, and this is what we're going to do. The part I enjoyed walking away from was when sometimes, if I was approaching a club and other agents were, the challenging discussions with other agents that would like to, you were a small fish in a very large pond, and they would make you feel, if you were in a meeting, or they would make it known that you were just that small fish. And I think getting away from the negativity of what somewhat agents create, and maybe just in business in general, probably was my most favorite, to not deal with the negativity, not given an opportunity. Whereas I would never do that. I've had ladies now call, message, email me, and I've always given my best advice. So getting away from other agents probably was my favorite. But the clients themselves, who in all that I managed, I enjoyed my relationships. And even if I see them now and I'm at a game, there's a lot of respect for each other and a lot of friendship there as well. So yeah.
You kind of touched on one thing there that is, I think, something that is stereotyped a little bit in terms of sports agents. Maybe some of that has to do with Jerry Maguire and what was portrayed in that movie. But in some ways, sports agents, the sliminess or the very underhandedness, the backstabbing element of the business, and you touched on that as one of the things that you were most eager to get away from. Is it as is portrayed sometimes in kind of fictionalized versions, where even, it's something like Jerry Maguire, where you've got other agents trying to poach your clients, or they're just trying to plant dirty rumors or very negative, unsavory things about you to try and scare potential new clients away or scare current clients away? How much of that actually did you experience, and did that actually factor into you wanting to leave the business?
I'll answer in reverse. No, nobody ever scared me, or any other agent didn't put me off to a point where I would leave at all. A lot of the decisions I made was purely based on my situation and what I would like to follow and do, passionate for what I was. And I'll go into actually that and what sports agent world made me understand about myself as well. But in terms of agents pushing me out and getting away from them, no, I was always ready for a challenge. I knew actually what I was getting myself into. Watching Jerry Maguire actually was somewhat, it's, as I say, every films or stories are originated from somewhere. So there is some truth to it, but they elevate it in films a lot in terms of what actually happens to what happens realistically. And realistically, there were elements of agents poaching your players and having, being disrespectful because I was a woman in sport. I was a woman who'd, against using my starting point as a weakness, is coming in, she's a woman and it's the first year she's become an agent. So it was more not to that level, because I also believe I wasn't the cricket agent that had signed everyone, or I had the best clients, or I had a huge clientele. So I was never near to that extent for someone to come and harass or cause so many problems. But I was enough with some certain handful of quality clients that I had other agents poach my clients. And also, I never gave anyone an opportunity for rumors. I think one thing I went into, and I remember saying this to my father, was, I'm not in this for the short term, father. So it's not a day, 2 month, year. I'm in for the long term. So for me, my respect as a female cricket agent supersedes my ambition of everything I want to achieve financially and purposefully in my own personal development. So rumors, I don't think there was ever that I know of were existent. But yeah, you'd have agents always trying to poach, always trying to hey, listen, we've got this for your player. Hey, listen, hey, Amir, Wahab, hey, we've got this. And sometimes you'd be challenged because you'd think, well, how has my player interacted? If you would listen to a discussion, you'd say, well, how long did this discussion go on for? And why did you entertain discussion knowing you have an agent? So always somewhat tricky in some situations. But yeah, agents, and the more agents have clients, the more financially confident they are. Newcomers or new agents are not important to even be considered to not poach their players. So there's a lack of respect for newcoming agents as well for that purpose.
Did you find it more challenging and more difficult to secure new clients or to keep current clients from being poached away by other agents?
I'll be honest, I didn't have any fear of losing clients, but the ones that I work with knew the value of my work and would recommend me to their other colleagues as well. So there is the odd fear sometimes where you think, okay, this client of mine, and out of all my clients, actually, Amir was the one that I was worried would leave me because new opportunities as he gets back into international cricket. And I'm new to the game as well. But he was loyal right to the end, very loyal to the end, and said, nope, I signed with you. I'm going to work with you, and whatever you bring, contracts, deals, sponsorships, with you. So that was a nice little success. Even to the end, he didn't want me to finish working as an agent. A couple of my clients were touched and were a little bewildered I would leave the agent world. But always, and again, I always did say, you can contact me anytime. Friends, forever in cricket world. So, but yeah, never feared that to an extent. I believed in the work that I did for them. And it'd be their loss sometimes, I'd tell myself, if they lost me working for them.